welcome back to another episode of Search It Up with Sienna, the web series where I use IMDb to discover and talk about all different types of movies and TV shows, and how the people in front of and behind the camera not only make it all possible, but are somehow all interconnected. I talk directly with the talent about their backstories and experiences on and off set, and what they're up to today. On my last episode, I talked about Father the Bride with writer and director Charles Shire. Diane Keaton, who plays Nina Banks on Father the Bride, also played Jenny, Dory's mom, on Finding Dory. So today, I'm going to be talking about Finding Dory. And I'm so excited because joining me today is supervising animator on the film, Michael Stalker. Finding Dory is a 2016 animation picture which continues the story of the movie Finding Nemo. Dory is a fish with short-term memory loss played by Ellen DeGeneres, who goes on a journey to find her parents. In my conversation with Michael Stalker, we'll hear about how the scenes and characters were visualized and created. In addition to Finding Dory, Michael Stalker also worked on The Incredibles 1 and 2, Cars, Up, Toy Story 3, Monsters University, Soul, Lightyear, and more. And now, without further ado, here's my interview with Michael Stalker. You were an illustrator and started branching out into general film production. What first interested you in animation?
That's a good question. So yes, I did. I started out as an illustrator, graphic designer, and I read a book in college, and it was about George Lucas, who made Star Wars, and a lot of us are affected by Star Wars.
Yes.
And I'm not any different. I was affected by Star Wars. And so in the back of my head, when I went to school, I always had this sort of tickling in the back of my head that I wanted to get into movies, and try to make movies. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go work for George Lucas and do special effects or something like that. Well, I put that away. That went, back in my brain for a handful of years. And I ended up being an illustrator for a while. And then I saw a commercial for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I don't know. So I saw a commercial on TV for that, and it was a lightning bolt for me. That's when I connected the dot. Like, I want to do whatever that is. And then the same day, or like the next day, I went into a bookstore, and there was a book there called The Illusion of Life. Have you ever heard of that book?
I have not.
I think it's out of print. It's about this thick, and it was made by a couple of old Disney animators, 2D animators. Cool. And that book is really the animation Bible. Everyone looks at that book as how to animate. And between those two things, I changed my whole life. I went back to school. I went to California Institute of the Arts, which was a big animation school, still is. And I changed everything, and I'm so happy that I did. So that's how I got into animation.
This reminded me of you saying that. I had a fifth grade project one year, and I had to make. It was basically you had to present something about the history of something, and I chose the history of animation. So I made like a whole video of me. I used like an animation platform, and I like animated me talking about animation in animation. So that was
that's awesome.
I really like it too. It's really interesting.
Once you get started in animation and you make something move and come to life, oh, it's pretty awesome. And you're like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to do this.
Did you watch a lot of animation movies as a kid? And did one movie inspire you I mean, I know you mentioned
Friend Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched all of the old Disney movies, but in a theater way back when. The first movie I ever really remember going to was Bambi, actually.
Oh, wow.
But do I have it's hard for me to pick a favorite now. So it's hard for me to go back and think, I really love the old Disney movies. I would say 101 Dalmatians would be my favorite older Disney movie. I love that movie. I love the style of that movie. So that's one of my favorites. And yeah, I mean, I really, Aladdin, Little Mermaid, those movies too. I was older, but those movies affected me as well. So I was all of those things aligned when I decided I wanted to do animation. And then, like you, I went back and literally watched everything I could.
Yeah, and I know that you've worked at Pixar for like about 20 years now.
Yeah.
I know you've obviously worked on a wide range of their films. Do you like animating style, like kind of like how Finding Dory is, where it's like kind of more realistic, or do you
Huh?
prefer like the cartoony animations?
Okay, so this is an interesting answer. So I am better at the more realistic animation when it comes to an animation.
Okay.
But when I see somebody do something very cartoony, oh, that it's really awesome. And I'm not as good as that at that, but that's something that I work on and try to get better at.
Mhm.
And so I guess I would answer it by saying I like the variety.
That makes sense.
Sometimes I like to do a more realistic movie, then other times, once I do that, then I like to switch and do something more realistic.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how I would answer that. So
Mhm. What was the first feature film you worked on, and what was your role on it?
my very first feature film or very first film that I ever worked on was Lion King.
Oh,
So
okay, that's cool. I
yeah,
love that
that's
movie.
a pretty good first one. And I did right out of Cal Arts, I did an internship in for Disney.
Mhm.
And the internship happened to be in Florida at Disney World.
Oh,
So
that's
they had an
cool.
animation studio there, and they were making Lion King. So I went down there and I worked for them. And then I was lucky enough to be able to stay on after my internship and work on Lion King. And my role on that was what they call an in-betweener. So that was all hand drawn,
Oh, that's cool.
and the animator would do all of the main drawings, and then it was my job to put drawings in between those two drawings to make it look really smooth.
Oh, I see.
So that was my job. And so I'm very happy. That's a very good first movie. I feel very lucky to have worked on that. Even for it was only a few months, but that's my first credit
Yeah.
I ever got.
How did Finding Dory come to you eventually?
I've animated on most of the movies here, and I've been lucky enough. I've been lucky enough to sort of work my way up. I was what they call a lead animator for a while on Toy Story 3 and on Monsters University. And
Mhm.
so the next step for me, I was lucky enough to be hired as the animation supervisor on Finding Dory. So it's just kind of the next step for me.
Got it.
And it was fun to be part of your as a supervising animator, you're in there really early and helping to set up the movie. So
Yeah.
it was fun to be able to do that.
Is there a step after supervising animator?
Not really. I mean, I suppose if somebody wanted to direct a movie, it's really not a step up. It's more just like I want to do something different.
Mhm.
So sometimes we'll supervise a movie and then we'll go back and animate on a movie. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
supervise another movie, go back and animate on a movie.
And I was actually wondering, do you ever see yourself directing an animation movie?
It would be awesome. I would love to see. I would love to do that. Yeah.
What do you do as a supervising animator? What is your like main job?
So I have kind of years of experience of animation. So my main job is to go onto the show early, build relationships with the director, with all of the other departments, and then help set up the animation team and make sure my main job is to make sure that the animators, and there's like 50, 60 to 70 of them,
Wow.
have everything they need to animate. So we need to build characters. We need to build Dory so that she can swim. We need to build Bailey and Destiny and all of the characters. And then we need to make sure that the director is happy with the performances that the animation team is giving. So we go back and forth and make sure all of the animators are happy. If something doesn't work for them, we want to fix it for them. Our role is to make sure we set them up so that they know exactly what they're doing. They know how to act with the characters. They have all of the voice recording. That's my job.
And what is the first step in the process when you get a script?
The script and story go hand in hand, right? So a script, we start with treatment. So what is the idea? Maybe a 2-page idea. And if it sounds like that's a good idea, then we'll start developing and drawing characters, designs, and writing a script. In the case of Finding Dory, our director, Andrew Stanton, wrote the script. So he's a really, really great writer. And he wrote, not only did he write the treatment, it was his idea, he wrote the script. And the script it ends up being a blueprint for us to follow when we make the movie. So if he writes something that says we start in the ocean, well, we need to build an ocean. If Dory gets stuck in a marine world sort of place, we need to make sure we build an animal park. So
Yeah.
we look at whatever ideas he has and we pull out what we need to build. So if Dory meets a whale, we need to make sure we build the whale, that kind of stuff. And
Got it.
then after that, the story team will start storyboarding the script. And sometimes they follow the script, sometimes they don't follow the script. And they build basically a giant comic book. And then we can watch the storyboards to see if the story is good or if it's a movie or if it needs work. And usually we have notes. And I would say there's about 12,000 drawings in a 90-minute movie to give you an idea of how many storyboards we
Wow,
do.
that's crazy.
It is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy.
I read that one of your favorite characters on Finding Dory is Hank the octopus. And
Yes.
what about the character do you love?
So first of all, my favorite animal in the whole wide world anyway was an octopus. So that just happened to be a happy accident. So I love octopuses. They're amazing animals. And so the idea of building one and animating one for me was very exciting. I was passionate about it because I knew it was going to be really, really hard, but
Yeah,
could be
that was
really, really cool. Yeah. Hard things can be cool things
yeah.
if you do them right. And because an octopus has all these legs, and because an octopus can move everything all at once, and because an octopus, they're very fluid, all of those things are really hard to do in the computer.
Hmm.
And so there was a lot of work to try to make that happen. My
Yeah.
favorite thing was we got to go to the local aquarium here and hold an octopus. So we
Oh
got to
wow, that's
we got to
cool.
hold a Pacific octopus, and they kind of wrapped their hand and tentacles around us, and you could tell that they were very, very smart animals. They would look at you, and you could tell they were looking at you, and then when you tried to leave, they would reach out and grab you and pull
Aw.
you back. They were amazing animals, and so I think all of those things it was really exciting to try to animate one
Yeah.
and bring it to life. Yeah, it was
And
very hard. So a normal animator will animate one shot in a week,
mhm.
but a Hank shot took about 3 weeks just because
Wow.
all of those legs, and just it was really, really hard.
Was the invisibility part hard? Because I know that Hank blends into things sometimes.
Yeah, the invisibility thing was an effect, and I don't think it was as hard as actually animating Hank, but it
Mhm.
was had to be done just right to be
Yeah.
believable, right? Because they can they can camouflage themselves. In reality, they don't go invisible. So we had to make that sort of believable that they're camouflaging themselves.
Were there any techniques you used with Finding Dory that had never been done before?
Ooh,
For
that's a good question. I think probably all the techniques we used had been done before, but maybe not all together.
that makes
Um,
sense.
and
Yeah.
definitely animating Hank's tentacles was the hardest part. So one thing that we were able to do is build a tool where you could take your pen and draw a line, and the tentacle would snap into the shape
Oh
to the
wow.
line. So that's pretty cool. And it allowed you to sort of, instead of having to move all these controls, you could just draw a line. And if someone could really draw some nice shapes, you get some nice leg shapes. I think that was a pretty good tool for animating Hank. I would say that was kind of the coolest thing. But again, we had animated a whole movie with fish with Finding Nemo. So
Yeah,
we had a lot of things to pull from,
that
and
makes sense.
we could follow a lot of what was done in that. But that's a great
And
question.
thank you. I was also wondering, is it harder by any chance to like animate things under like that are in an underwater setting versus like
Mhm.
a above land setting?
I don't think there's any one thing harder than the other thing. I think what's fun though, uh, which is why I like animation, is because we had to first well, so the fun part is we had to learn how fish move. And so we would have experts come in and talk us all about how fish swim.
That's really cool.
There's flippers and there's rowers, there's different kinds of a whale swims a certain way. And to me, that's one of the fun things about animation, is learning about all the different things.
Hmm.
And so we kind of went to fish school, and everyone had to animate Dory swimming so you could learn how her body works and learn sort of how the flippers work. But then we had to learn how to make them look like they're believably in water.
Yeah.
they can't just transport around.
Yeah, I like too. I like how when I'm watching the movie, I was thinking, I like how it wasn't like a make believe movie where it's like, oh, all of a sudden Dory's walking on pavement,
Yes,
and it's like
yes,
each time she's somehow transferred into like a part of water, whether it's in like that little coffee cup that Hank is carrying around, or if it's in the actual ocean.
yes. It's like it's an interesting thing. What rules do we follow? So she's a real fish, but she could poke her head up and talk. So we were okay with that, but she had to be carried around in water because she's a
Yeah,
fish. And one of the things we really try to do here is truth to material, what we call truth to material. So if a fish can't do something, we have to either be very, very creative or they can't do it. Ratatouille is a great example of a rat that's a real rat, but
yeah.
then when people aren't around, he stands up and he's like, "Hey, how's it going? I'm kind of a talking rat." Um, and so that was really fun to play with. And that's a weird world where it kind of
Yeah,
worked. Same with cars. Cars is a weird world. Talking cars,
that's
that's very
true.
weird. But they had to drive like real cars. They couldn't just stand up and walk around.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a little odd. It's kind of odd already, but big
I know.
eyes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is there a movie you worked on that you would say is your favorite or most memorable movie?
Very hard to answer because I have different experiences on them. I would say Ratatouille was my favorite movie to animate on, just because it was so weird and
Yeah,
fun. So I love
I love
that part
that
of it.
movie. Yeah.
I love that movie. I was a lead on Toy Story 3, and
Mhm.
my experience on that movie was awesome. I had so much fun making that movie. And I didn't get to work on Toy Story 1 or Toy Story 2. So for me, working on with Buzz and Woody and Jesse and that was really, really fun for me to be able to work with those characters.
Mhm.
And I really like that movie. So those two movies were really fun. My Finding Dory experience was super fun because I got to do a different kind of job on that.
Yeah.
And since I love Finding Nemo, again, it was fun to work on Finding Dory. So
Mhm.
I like that. And I like the way the movie came out. But it's so hard to pick. I change it sometimes. Sometimes I'll go, oh, that's right. Up was fun too. And so it's hard to pick.
Since you started in animation, has the process changed and is it easier or more challenging now?
Well, when I started, I was doing 2D, which is hand-drawn animation back on Lion King and then, Tarzan and all of those movies when I was at Disney. So the biggest change is that we rarely make those movies anymore, and the computer came in and kind of took that. So
Mhm.
that's the biggest change. And then over the course of the 20 years since being here, we're constantly inventing new ways and new tools to animate our characters. And so there's always trying to learn a new tool. That's always going to be the case. And hopefully those tools make it easier. Sometimes it makes it harder, but
Yeah.
depending on the kind of character that we're animating, we might need to learn a new way to do something.
Mhm.
Um, so so I think it's just what's really cool about animation is always an ongoing, changing, learning experience. And I'm super happy to see now there's more 2D than there has been in the past. It's starting to come back in TV in other areas. There's 3D. There's all kinds of different looking movies.
Yeah.
I look at Spider-Man and it looks so cool.
Yeah.
I love that movie. So everybody's making really, really cool things. And it's just
Mhm.
really fun to see all the different stories that are out there. So
Yeah. And if there's one movie or TV show that's still running, is like 30 years old, that you haven't worked on, what would be that movie or TV show that you would want to work on?
you mean the movie in the past that I didn't get to work on that I would
Any
like
it could
to?
be in the past, it could be like a TV show that's still running right now or anything like that.
Oh man, let's see. If I a move some huh. Well, I would have loved to have worked with if I could go back in time,
Mhm.
I would love to work with there's an animator whose name is Milt Kahl. I don't know
Mhm.
if you've ever heard of Milt Kahl, but he's a famous animator. He animated Pinocchio.
Oh, that's
Anyway,
cool.
he's been around for I would love to go and just work for him, whatever for him because he was such a good animator that it would have been fun to work with him.
Yeah,
And and Walt Disney was still around, so it also would have been fun to be able to
that's
work for
cool,
Walt
yeah.
Disney. So that would have been cool too.
What advice would you give to the next generation looking to get into animation?
Watch all kinds of movies, but not just animated movies. Watch live action movies. But animation really is the observation of real life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think animators can get stuck watching animated movies and think, oh, I'll learn from it watching animated movies. But everyone in animation watches real life. So I have a sketchbook wherever I go. And if I'm sitting at a bus stop, I'm observing people walking and trying to capture if they have funny walks, or
Oh,
if they
that's
do something
interesting.
quirky, because I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna put it in a movie.
Yeah, that's smart.
And everything, although we make movies in the computer, most of everything we do starts with drawing. And so my advice to people would be to really, really keep a sketchbook, or write yourself notes, and then constantly draw. And it's really, that gets you to observe the world.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that's what we draw from. Our movies are animated, but we're drawing from real life. And so when you watch the movie, hopefully you're like, oh, that happened to me. I get that. I've seen that person before. I know how that person.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
that's my advice
Yeah,
anyway.
I definitely agree with that. I never thought of that before. It's probably long hours once you get deep into production and animating. So, what is your favorite snack that you like to snack on while you animate?
M&Ms.
Oh, I
Chocolate
love M&Ms.
chocolate M&Ms right now are my go-to snack. We have a room where we all look at shots and everything, but there's a big tub of chocolate M&Ms. I think I might have eaten the whole thing myself, because
That's
I'm kind
funny.
of loved M&Ms.
Is
Yeah.
that your favorite? Is you like what if you couldn't have chocolate M&Ms and there was every other type of M&Ms but chocolate? Which one would you choose?
Of M&Ms,
Hmm.
my next, besides M&Ms,
Besides chocolate M&Ms, like
I
peanut
like the
butter,
peanut M&Ms too, but I
yeah.
like anything with peanut butter I like also. So Reese's peanut butter. Halloween's coming up, and I'll probably give out like Reese's or something like that, because I like peanut butter.
And my last question is, what are you working on now? Is there anything that you can talk about that you're currently working on?
So right now I'm working on the sequel to Inside Out.
Oh, cool. I just saw that that was coming out. I'm really
Yes.
excited for
So we are we're deep in that one.
that. Hmm.
And hopefully it comes, we're shooting to have it come out next summer, hopefully. Not
Hmm.
and but it's really good. I'm very excited
That's
about
good.
it.
I'm happy.
And I love the first one so much, which I didn't get to work on. So I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to go back and say it would have been fun to work on that movie, but I get to work on this movie. So that's good too.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's another show called Win or Lose, which is a streaming show on Disney Plus
Hmm.
that I finished up, and it's really, really, really good.
Oh,
And
I
I
have to
can't
watch
wait for
that.
everyone to see it. I'm not sure when it comes out, but look for it on Disney Plus. It's
Okay.
really, really good.
I'm definitely gonna have to now.
Yes, I love it. I love it so much. It's great.
Thank you so much for letting me talk to you today. This was great. I learned so much about you and your role in animation, and it was just so amazing talking to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you are more than welcome, and you did a great job, and you asked some really great questions. So
Thank
thanks for
you.
having me.
Of
Yes, it
course,
was fun.
anytime.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stalker. I loved hearing about your experience, inspiration, and behind the scenes stories while working on Finding Dory. And now, before we search it up, here's a quick fun fact. Did you know that the movie features a truck with the license plate CALA 113? This Easter egg shows up in all Pixar movies as a nod to the Cal Arts Room where many of the animators of Pixar Studios studied. One more fun fact is that Steve Pilcher was the production designer on this movie, and I spoke with him in a previous episode about the movie Soul. And now it's time to search it up. Let's see. Oh! Kate McKinnon plays the wife fish in Finding Dory, and she also plays one of the Barbies in the movie Barbie. So next time, we'll be talking about the movie Barbie. See you then!